Good day, Melinda. This presentation provides a summary of the Kids Eat Market Opportunity Assessment um, submitted earlier. The presentation will cover political, business, and market analysis of the selected countries, Malaysia and South Africa. I'll also do a country summary of both, and I'll finish up the presentation with an entry strategy for the selected country, South Africa. On the political front, Malaysia has a constitutional monarchy with an independent court system. Its king is the head of state and executive power is held by the prime minister. And most ministries in Malaysia are segmented. South Africa, on the other hand, has a representative democracy, also with an independent court system. And the government believes in cooperative governance. And so that may be one of the reasons why they have combined ministries in the country, especially to support trade. Both countries are fairly politically stable. South Africa is slightly weaker, and that can be attributed to high unemployment and crime as two factors. Where future political risks are concerned, it's fairly low for Malaysia. Low crime, high unemployment. While for South Africa, it's a bit different. Now, as you can see, these figures are from 2020 and 2021. Some of these have been exacerbated by the COVID pandemic, but again, high employment plays and crime plays a critical role. Looking at the Corruption Perception Index, as you can see, there's less corruption in Malaysia than there is in South Africa. However, both countries have improved since 2012 over 2020. South Africa has a larger population. However, Malaysia's GDP is twice that of Malaysia. Malaysia also has a higher growth rate, and the country outstrips South Africa when it comes to imports and exports and foreign domestic investments. However, South Africa has a higher population rate for children between 0 and 14. It has a larger working population, and this is an indication that the South African population is younger than that of Malaysia. Some other economic data for you here. Inflation in Malaysia is relatively low compared to South Africa, and manufacturing in Malaysia outstrips that of South Africa. And this can be manufacturing across, different goods and services, and just shows you that South Africa as an economy has potential for growth. Legally, Malaysia follows a common customary and Islamic laws, while for South Africa, it's just common and statutory laws. Now, what is important is that countries who enter any of these countries need to make themselves, not countries, companies who enter these countries need to make themselves aware of the specific trade laws and ministries that enforce these laws. Right? For example, trade laws fall under the Malaysian Industrial Development Authority, and in South Africa they have several acts that will protect patents and trademarks, etc. Now, when you look at the market analysis of South Africa and Malaysia, as you can see, Malaysia is doing far better than South Africa in terms of its market receptivity, economic freedom, and market intensity. Just some of the figures stated. Um, where product usage or potential product usage is concerned, um, in Malaysia, right, they have a higher instance of women who breastfeed than in South Africa. South Africa has a lower density. Now, along with the population age, which South Africa, as I mentioned earlier, has a higher population of youth, it gives the indication that potentially um, women in South Africa are using other means to provide nutrition to their children. And these means could be through infant formulas, baby food, etc. So when you look at the target market for infant formula baby food, South Africa does have a higher target market, right? Its fertility rate is also higher than Malaysia, and both countries have fairly low infant mortality rates. Population growth is almost the same. Looking at competition in the market, I found a few companies online that produce infant formula in South Africa. However, they have discovered instances of inferior product on the market, inferior products, infant formulas, in essence. All right, so there is potential for Kids Eat to enter this market based on its internationally recognized superior product. Now, what are some of the risks entering South Africa? As I mentioned, unemployment is one such risk. I tend to see underemployment more as an opportunity than a risk. Some would consider it a risk, but again, this can lead to the high crime rates that the country has. South Africa has some issues with its power grid, which the government is working on, and as I mentioned earlier, there are issues exacerbated by the COVID pandemic, and the country also has a reported water crisis. But what are the opportunities for a company entering South Africa to sell baby food, infant formula? South Africa is the gateway to sub-Saharan Africa. And this exposes the company, or will expose the company, to a population of over 1 billion residents. Right? South Africa as a modern logistic hub, and there is high government support for small businesses. The infrastructure of the country is well developed, and the country also has a highly developed financial and legal system. Now, what is the entry strategy? The entry strategy is a multi-domestic approach in that franchising is considered or is being considered. But along with franchising, there'll be the export. So the first part to support the franchising will be to export raw material, internationally recognized raw material from Australia to the franchisee in South Africa. The Kids Eat will then provide the franchisee with technical knowledge on how to set up the business. However, the franchisee will be responsible for managing local staff, wage negotiations, and disputes. However, we believe, or I believe, that if Kids Eat has minority ownership in the company, it will help to protect the Kids Eat brand. And because Kids Eat is already involved in social programs in Australia, through this minority ownership, it will provide the gateway for Kids Eat to implement similar social programs in South Africa, which will help to build the brand. Additionally, as a minority owner of the company, Kids Eat can continue to provide technical support to the franchisee in South Africa to increase efficiency. Additionally, as a minority owner, right, KidsEat, it will ensure that KidsEat avoids the potential of the franchisee taking its raw materials, its expertise, and starting their own business. So, with the minority ownership, it also means then that if the franchisee decides to expand into sub-Saharan Africa, KidsEat will also benefit from that expansion. So this is just a summary, again, of the information presented. Thank you and have a lovely day.